Hi, I'm Layla, and in my speech today, I'm going to inform y'all about Adolf Hitler's rise to his power, what things he implemented during his power, and his death. Almost everybody has heard about Adolf Hitler at least once in their lives. He was one of the most powerful and notorious leaders of all time. Wouldn't you want to know why he's so well known? Well, if your answer is yes, then you're in luck because you'll learn about him in this speech today. The first main point I'm going to be talking about is how Hitler got his rise to his power. He was born on April 20th of 1889. In February of 1932, Adolf Hitler ran against Paul Hindenburg to become president of Germany, and he lost the election with 36.8% of votes, while Hindenburg had 53% of the votes. Even though he lost the election, he was still viewed as a very credible politician by most people. On January 30th of 1933, Hitler was invited to be chancellor by Hindenburg, and even though Hitler was the leader of the biggest party in Reichstag, he still had to convince Hindenburg to become the chancellor. And when he convinced him, the Nazis were then in power. On August 2nd of 1934, Paul Hindenburg died, which led to Hitler becoming the president of Germany and chancellor at the same time. And this gave him the most power that he has ever had. And this is a picture of whenever Hindenburg was appointing Hitler to become the chancellor.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. The second thing I'm going to be informing y'all about is what things Adolf Hitler implemented during his power. He used his power to implement the persecution of the Jews in the 1930s. During World War II, the Germans started burning books that were considered un-German and were written by any Jewish authors. The Germans also stood outside of German businesses with signs and intent to destroy these businesses. During the Holocaust, Adolf Hitler also had the Germans put the Jewish people into ghettos. The living conditions were horrible, and they were meant to only be temporary, but they lasted a few days and some even lasted multiple years. During the Holocaust, the Germans also separated the Jewish people into ghettos. The first ghetto was made in Poland in 1939. They were only supposed to be temporary, and the living conditions were horrible, but some of them lasted multiple days and some of them even lasted multiple years. Another thing that Adolf Hitler implemented during his power is he caused the systematic mass murders of the Jewish people. On June 22nd of 1941, Germany invaded the Soviet Union, which started with the killing of military-aged men and then slowly led to women and children being murdered as well by shootings. They even invented a new method of killing during all of this, which was the poisonous gas chambers. And the killings continued during the summer and spring of 1944. And this is what the poisonous gas chambers looked like. Yeah, they would close them in here and then they would put gas in there and they would all die.
Dang. How many people will go in there at a time? A lot?
Multiple, like hundreds. The third and final main point I'm going to be informing you all about is how, when, and where Adolf Hitler died. On April 29th of 1945, Hitler completed his last political testament and will, and he also married his mistress, Eva Braun. On April 30th of 1945, the Soviet troops of Berlin hunted Hitler while he was doing his normal work day like it was any other day. Later that day, he had his last lunch with his staff, and then he committed suicide in his underground bunker later that day at 56 years old. And this is what his underground bunker looked like, where he killed himself. He was sitting on that couch. In conclusion, Adolf Hitler's rise to his power, the things he implemented, and his death led him to be one of the most powerful and notorious leaders to this day. Hitler influenced a lot during this time, which was why he was one of the most successful leaders and so well known even in today's time.